Hi friends, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and I want to talk a little bit today about Randy Couture and Iron Man from the Avengers movies and cognitive functions. I was earlier watching a interview with Randy Couture, who, if you're not familiar with who he is, he's an MMA fighter / now he's an actor, and he's formerly a wrestler. And the interview was very revelatory about a couple of things. One, he's clearly an ESTJ. The way that he answers the questions and stuff. To me, I don't normally type celebrities, but he's pretty clear-cut ESTJ. And I think it's revelatory of a couple of things. Revelatory of how ESTJs reference the past a lot in explaining things, and how that's a critical juncture point for distinguishing between SI and NI users. You know, when you ask a lot of questions about a person, why do you think this happened? There's a number of different ways to answer a question. Why do you think this happened? And people with SI in the first or second slot will consistently say, if you're asking them something like, but why do you think this happened in your life? They're going to reference events prior to that define why things happened. Whereas if you ask an NI user why this happened in your life, they're much more likely probably to talk about either their circumstances or their feelings if they're an FI user. You know, I mean, there's a distinction, right? And it's hard to articulate exactly what it is, but you can hear a kind of referencing of the past that recalls specific events and says how those specific events impacted the person in the past to set them up to do whatever. It's a very SI approach to understanding things. And NI says will be much more likely to talk about aspects of the self that are values or character issues or stuff like that, less likely to talk about events defining them. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. And the other reason I just sort of laughed watching this interview with Couture is, you know, he's all about prep. He says, I never go into any situation unprepared, and that's why I'm able to be successful. And you know, it's all about preparation, all about scouting, doing the legwork. You know, the how-to. You get better at it over time. There's also that SI NE frame that every time he does something, he gets a little bit better at it and he learns new things. And so, I mean, I think that's true for everybody, but it's not a default position about how shit actually plays out, you know, for everybody. It's nobody would suggest that they don't get better at things with practice, but NI types are less likely to frame their experience through that understanding is the key thing. So, okay, let's talk next about Iron Man. Iron Man shows you why it's difficult to type characters because, well, he's clearly a stereotypical ENTP character. There's lots of things about him that aren't, they're just fantasy, you know, like there aren't, no human being, no ENTP's TETI is that good. And I understand this because, you know, I'm a fairly robust ENTP. I've got a fairly robust capacity to use my skills and compensate for my weaknesses and stuff. I've got a fair amount of life experience. I've had a lot of luck in life, and so there's lots of reasons why I'm a relatively optimal manifestation of ENTP skill sets. At least, I mean, the thing is, it's for me. Obviously, other people might be more wholly realized in their execution of these same things than me. I'm not saying I'm the best or whatever, but I'm saying I understand the relationship between skill sets. Like, to be maximally ideational, it requires one to be somewhat less than maximally effective in the how-to part of it, because that'll bog you down in your ideation, and certain things are inherently mutually self-contradictory. I've got some very good ideas about really that understanding cognitive functions is about determining which of the frames is ignored, which is dynamic, and which is presumed static. So which is ignored, which is presumed static, which is presumed dynamic. There's some relationship between those three things: the observer, the subject-object, and the field or system grammar, that involves those three other things that you can determine, I think, the cognitive functions as expressing some configuration of those things. But I can't figure it out, or I probably could, but I don't have I'm not up to the TI heavy lifting of it. Every time I start to think about it, I go, that's too complicated. Too many permutations. I mean, there's not that many permutations, but to account for everything, it seems like it doesn't add up or something. I don't know, and I just get bogged down in it because it's too much TI, too much heavy lifting. Now, there might be ENTPs out there for sure. I don't doubt there are plenty that are smarter than I am and are more capable of that kind of stuff. But to the extent that they are attending more to that, in other words, the execution of specific ideas and the how-to associated with those, then they're necessarily less ideationally broad. They're more ideationally focused, less ideationally broad. There's an implicit trade-off that is required by life that's not acknowledged by the movies sometimes. So, I try to be aware of the implicit trade-offs as I go through the world and sort of make informed decisions to the extent that one can about how much attention to direct to things and where is wise for me to direct attention. But the problem is, of course, there's also multiple criteria of wisdom that I can either attain or fail to attain. What I mean by that is, like, is it wise for me to do X or Y? Often what might be wisest is for me to take a nap and relax today and not do anything. But is that wisest in terms of any given project or some other person's perspective? Probably not. It's an animal thing. And it might just be wise. It might be wisest because I tend to frame it always as it's wise for me to get some rest now and take care of myself, because I'm going to have to be productive again, and this will help me to resume my natural state of productivity by getting some rest and taking care of myself. But there's another frame, which is I need to relax and enjoy relaxing times for their own sake as kind of ends in themselves and not instrumental to being productive again. I have to have that aspect of self as well. I can't be just this person who only thinks himself valid or worth attending to when he's producing shit. So, finding a balance there where I enjoy a certain amount of maintenance work, like cleaning and stuff, which I'm starting to do that in general at home here, whatever. Like, I enjoy more SI, and I let myself turn my attention more off of ideational stuff and more onto kind of SESI stuff, where I remember what needs to be done and then do it. That's good for my mental health. Even if I could exclude that entirely from my life, if I were afforded the resources and human resources required to be able to delegate all that shit away, it still wouldn't be good for me to do so. So there's a wholeness of self that's attained by becoming comfortable with the rhythms of life, which are not always providing stimulation, which are not always providing opportunities to make something, which are not always providing fun and excitement and novelty for the ENTP mind. And it takes you a lot of years possibly to get there. So yeah, Iron Man, he's a cool character. I enjoy those. I watched that movie, one of those movies, the other night here at my parents' house, watching more TV, and I like that character. I thought it was funny when one of the other people in the movie said, "Without that suit, what have you got?" And he's like, "Billionaire, playboy, genius, philanthropist." the chick in the movie, I forget what her name is. She's like, he's got a point. So I thought that was funny. Anyway, that's the stereotype that people think of when they think of ENTPs, you know. But there's nobody like that in the world. There's nobody who's, you might say Elon Musk is like that. Elon Musk is just a regular dude like everybody else. He just had the cojones. He had the situation, the cojones, the whatever. And once he gets that shit rolling, he starts to validate his own notion that he's a super genius or whatever. Then all of a sudden, it's that confidence that then takes over and becomes the thing. It's not like he's got any particularly great ideas. What are his great ideas? Electric cars? He didn't come up with that. Big tunnel under the city? Genius? Send spaceships to outer space? Okay. We've all done those things before already, right? There's nothing genius about Elon Musk, except his positioning of himself, which is absolutely genius. Okay, so
okay, but there's many more.
Oh, I'm glad there's many more. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Hopefully that video was, well, entertaining enough and topical enough and stuff. It kind of helps to watch TV and get some things to talk about like that. Bye for now. I gotta go run errands now because I gotta go pick up something and drop it off. Anyway, oh, I also got to mail Zandy her painting, which I have in the car, and I'm gonna do today for sure. With 0% chance of failure, I'm gonna do it right now. So goodbye, everybody. Talk to you later.